In 1952, a woman swam into the ocean off Catalina Island and tried to become the first person to cross that channel to the California coast. She had already swum the English Channel, both directions, faster than any man or woman before her. She knew what she was doing. But that day, the Pacific was cold, and a heavy fog rolled in until she couldn't see more than a few feet in front of her. She swam for 15 hours. Her arms went numb. Her mind kept telling her the shore had to be close. It had to be, and still nothing but grey water and grey air. Finally, she asked to be pulled out. She had quit, just half a mile from the coast. Half a mile. When she got on the boat and looked back, she said the fog had beaten her. Not the distance, not her body, the fog. She hadn't been able to see her goal, and somewhere in that blindness, she stopped believing it was there at all. Think about that for a second. She had trained for years. Her body could have made it. What broke her wasn't exhaustion. It was the not knowing. And if you've ever stood at the edge of something big, a decision, a risk, a version of your life you haven't tried yet, you already understand that feeling. It's not usually the size of the obstacle that stops us. It's the fog. The part we can't see past. We like to imagine fear as something loud. A roar. A cliff edge. A moment of obvious danger. But most fear doesn't announce itself like that. Most fear is quiet. It's the version of you that stays in the job you've outgrown because leaving feels like stepping into fog. It's the conversation you don't have, the apology you don't offer, the idea you don't say out loud in the meeting because someone might tilt their head at you. It's not one dramatic moment of courage we're missing. It's 1,000 small, foggy half-miles we quietly decide not to swim. So here's the question worth sitting with. If the fog is the real enemy, not the distance, what do you do about something you cannot see? 2 months later, that same swimmer went back into the water. Same channel, same current. But this time, she did one thing differently. She kept a mental picture in her mind of the shoreline the whole way, not the one she could see. Maybe you've felt this in your own life without having language for it. The times you almost gave up not because you failed, but because you couldn't prove to yourself, in that exact moment, that continuing would work. Nobody can prove that. Nobody ever could. Certainty was never on offer. It never will be. And once you understand that, something shifts because you stop waiting for the fog to clear before you commit. You realize the swimmers, the founders, the artists, the parents holding a family together through a hard year, none of them had visibility. They had a picture they refused to put down. There's an old story about a runner decades ago who was told by doctors and coaches and the entire weight of athletic history that running a mile in under 4 minutes was physically impossible for a human body. Not unlikely impossible. It had never been done, and the belief had calcified into something like biological law. And then, in May of 1954, a young medical student named Roger Bannister ran the mile in 3 minutes and 59.4 seconds, and the impossible barrier broke. Here's the detail that actually matters though, and it's the part people forget. Within just weeks, other runners started breaking it too. Their bodies hadn't changed. Their training hadn't dramatically improved overnight. What changed was that they now had proof that it could be done, and once the fog around the idea lifted, they simply followed the line Bannister had already run. That's what a clear picture does. It doesn't just move you forward, it changes what becomes possible for everyone standing behind you. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. because I want to be honest with you instead of just inspiring. Holding that picture is not going to feel brave in the moment. It's going to feel like doubt, most of the time. It's going to feel like you're guessing. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote, in his letters, that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality, that we torture ourselves with things that exist only as fog in our own minds, disasters that never actually arrive. That line has survived 2,000 years because it's still true. Most of what stops us was never actually there. It was fog we mistook for a wall. So think about what you're standing in front of right now. The thing you've been circling. Maybe it's a business you haven't started because you don't know if it'll work. Nobody ever does. That's not new information. That's just the water. Maybe it's a relationship you need to be honest in, and you're scared of what happens after the honesty. Maybe it's smaller than that. Maybe it's just the version of you that speaks up, that takes up space, that stops shrinking to keep other people comfortable. Whatever it is, ask yourself the real question, not, is this safe? Because it isn't. Nothing worth doing ever is. Ask instead, do I have a picture of the shore clear enough to carry me through the parts I can't see? Because that's the transformation. It's not that the fear disappears. Bannister was still afraid. The swimmer still felt the cold, still felt her arms give out, still had every physical reason to stop. Being fearless was never about not feeling any of that. It was about deciding before the fog ever rolled in exactly what she was swimming toward, so that when the moment came where she couldn't see anything, she didn't need to. She already knew. That's the whole secret, and it's smaller and stranger than we want it to be. We think brave people are wired differently, that they simply don't feel what we feel. They do. Every one of them. The difference is, they built the picture first, and they trusted it more than they trusted the fog. So build yours. Not someday, now, before you need it. Because you will need it. Probably sooner than you think. Decide what the shore looks like. Decide it so clearly that no fog, no cold water, no voice telling you it's impossible can talk you out of what you already know to be true. And then go in anyway. Not because you can see the whole way. Because you don't have to. That half a mile she quit on, it's still out there. For every one of us, in our own water, at our own edge. The only real question is whether you turn back, or whether you finally decide to be fearless. Here's your challenge, starting today. Name the one thing you've been circling because of fog, not because of the actual distance, and take one real step toward it before you go to sleep tonight. Not the whole swim, just one step.